a pastor was trying to get a fast one on you. That doesn't seem very ethical.
No, it really doesn't. I mean,
That's
but
kind of
used
funny.
car sales never really are. Like, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? He kept telling me too. He's like, "Oh, it drives around town just fine." He's like, "Shift's a little hard, but it's just fine. Hasn't failed me yet." And like, when I was testing it, I'm like, "That's what you mean by like it shifts hard? Like that is an abrupt shift right there. It shifts real hard." And he's like, "Well, I told you it shifts hard." And it's like, okay, so we can exacerbate things in one direction or another, and apparently that's still ethical to this pastor. That said, he was a really nice guy. He just was a little bit pious and thought he was better than everybody else. Oh yeah, also the other weird thing was like I found it on Facebook Marketplace and I was messaging his
Yeah.
wife, right? But his and I know that he has one kid because I always do a little pre-background check before buying a used car off of somebody to just kind of get like some feel for them, right?
Mhm.
And his wife's like, "Oh yeah, we'll be ready at or you can come and see it at 12 to 1." And then the guy's like, "Well, no, sorry. I told her I'd come and see it at 1." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, you can come and see it at 1." The guy's like, "Oh, I really need you to be here between 12 and 1." And I get there, and she's not even there. So I don't even think they live together anymore.
Oh,
Yeah. But
I
they
mean,
have a
that's
joint
fine.
Facebook account for some reason. So and when I
Huh.
went back, she also wasn't there.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's possible she just works on Saturdays as a waitress or a stripper or something.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, a stripper is a great profession for a pastor's wife.
I mean, I think so. It really brings in the dollar bills, if you know what I mean.
Only dollars.
Yeah. Sometimes coins, but it depends on if you have the receiver on. So to pick up the coins when they go through the slot. So
Oh, yeah. Makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, no, but yeah, I mean it's actually in pretty good condition. So yeah, it's just like a,
Better than your other Ford F-150?
yeah, it's well, I kind of like my other one better, but it's in pretty good shape. So the interior is not all ripped up and it's much newer. So,
Oh,
but
nice.
that inline six will last forever on the old ones. These Tritons with the V8s, they have some issues that you have to address pretty much as soon as you get it. So, which this one had such low miles that I didn't really care, and the cab was in pretty good shape. I'll need to replace the bed at some point, but like I really don't care that much. So,
Yeah. That's future Ryan problem.
hmm
Or not even Ryan problem. It's probably gonna
yeah,
fail before that.
yeah, maybe I don't know. Last transmission I changed, I had to do it twice, so I didn't rebuild that one though. I just bought it from a scrapyard, but they're like, "Oh yeah, it has low miles." I'm like,
Mhm.
"Okay," and then it blew out on me.
2
Uh,
weeks later.
yeah, and then that made me pretty salty, really. So, but
Return it.
nobody well, I tried to, and the guy only gave me 50% back. I'm like, "You fucking shiesty, dude." Like, he's like, "Well, it came out of a working unit, so I don't know why." I'm like, "Well, did it dawn on you that maybe they brought the working unit in because that was going out?"
Yes.
Yeah. So he got
I
me
mean,
good.
that's what I do when I go to trade in cars. I'm
Mhm.
literally bringing a car that I cannot function for another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's now yours.
Right. Yeah, and
Don't check anything.
this wasn't even like a trade-in thing on a transmission. This was a scrap yard, so it's like the car is
Yeah.
doomed. This is the transmission that got pulled out of it. He's like, "Well, it was running when it came in." I'm like, "What was the condition of it?" And he's like, "Well, it looked like it had some front end damage." I'm like, "Yeah, but all these have front end damage. Chances are it had front end damage, and then on top of that, it sat for, it wasn't working right because it didn't work exactly right when I got it." So whatever. And then it
That's
sat
why
outside for like 10 years, you know?
so that's why you don't buy things from scrap yards.
Yeah. Usually you can get an idea from transmissions. The truck was so old that it was kind of hard not to buy it from a scrapyard. So I
Oh, I
wanted to buy
see.
a reconditioned one, but um, nobody sold one. that was reconditioned because it was so old, and on top of that, it was two-wheel drive and not four-wheel drive, so people weren't really, you know, that's fine. It's really not a big deal, but it was just more annoying than anything else. So, but my new truck,
Makes sense.
at least I was able to drive my new truck back from Maslin though.
Yeah.
So, um,
And by the way, welcome to Ethica America, where we talk about trucks all day. So, a couple weeks ago, we started off our episode like such as this, where we, ramble for like 5 minutes,
yeah.
but we were rambling about video games and how like they're glitching and awful.
Oh, okay.
You remember that?
Right. Dude, like everything the last 2 weeks has been a blur. So, oh, it's been
Well,
terrible.
this episode was like 4 weeks ago that we recorded. So the
Yeah.
last 2 weeks were a blur. So the 2 weeks before that
Oh,
are fresh in your mind.
yeah. Yeah. God. Yeah. Like they've been there since day one, really. So,
Yeah.
um,
It was
but yeah,
funny because
I
when we
do
were
vaguely.
talking about
Oh, go ahead.
it was funny because when we were talking about doing this episode on video games, I was editing the last one and I'm like, oh, this is weird.
So what you're suggesting is it was almost like deja vu while you were editing it.
Yeah, kinda. It
Yeah.
was just like, oh yeah, we were we are gonna have like a random episode about this topic, and
Yeah.
this ramble is not gonna coincide with an episode for another couple weeks. It's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get you.
So
Yeah.
now we're just gonna have weird rambles,
Weird
and
rambles
then
about diesel trucks.
yeah, and then like in 3 weeks we're gonna do an episode about diesel trucks.
Oh man. Well, actually, I could bore you to death with diesel. Well, the future of diesel and how it's not super sustainable right now. So, though it is improving, um, but that's entirely different. Unless we're talking about a video game like BeamNG, where you can drive some of those vehicles emissions free. Um,
Will your vehicle glitch out into the world and then your game will crash?
I don't know. I've never actually played BeamNG, and from what I've seen, it's actually a pretty solid gaming engine, or pretty solidly built game. The physics engine is what I meant is
Oh yeah.
supposed to be pretty incredible on that game.
I feel like a
So
lot of the physics engines that people have been using for like since Morrowind.
yeah, yeah, because I remember driving cars in Morrowind, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now,
Isn't
but
it like isn't the Unreal Engine that they've been using for like 20 years now or something?
yeah, but I mean, it's just like any code base, right? I mean, eventually it reaches a point where they just want to go with basically keep certain parts of it, but update the
Right.
entire thing. But for the most part, programs like what you do is you just keep updating them and updating them and updating them until they end up as this clusterfucky sort of thing. And then you keep
Yeah.
updating them for another couple of years, unless you're the government, and then you go for another 20 years. So I can't tell you how many government websites still run off of like some Windows XP server.
Well, they still use those dot matrix printers, so they're using DOS still.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah. Yeah. So there are some programs too that like they basically, yeah, they still run DOS on a lot of stuff because
Yeah.
it, it's stupid, but like their entire infrastructure was built with that as the backbone. So,
Right. And
you have to.
and I guess like with the video game scene right now, where video games need to be released at a certain time rather than like I don't know, play tested and tested and then more testing. They just would
Well,
need something to launch. So
yeah.
getting a new engine sounds like a lot more work.
Yeah. I mean, that's usually developed separately and then implemented separately.
Right.
Um, but
I
yeah,
thought the next Morrowind, or not Morrowind, but I thought the next Skyrim was going to be like another engine, like an updated engine. Then
It
what they
might.
were using before, but I don't remember that now. That's what
No.
I thought though.
Yeah,
But
I
no,
honestly don't remember.
yeah,
Um,
I know that Fallout 74. I'm pretty sure they're using the same engine, and that game was trash.
I thought it was Fallout 76.
Man, now I
Either
don't
way.
remember. I even bought it too.
Yeah, I was waiting for them to solve the glitches, and then they just gave up on it. So I was like, I'm
Yeah,
happy I didn't
it is.
waste $60 on that.
It is Fallout 76.
That's
Well,
cool.
I recently bought Diablo 4, and I
Oh,
paid like the $100 price.
yeah.
And man, a lot of people hated that game.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I guess there was a couple of issues where one of the major issues was resistances just weren't coded correctly, and they're going to fix it at a later date, which was during. It's either patched now, about 2 months after released, or it's going to be patched in the next patch
Well,
for
I mean,
season.
and
Yeah,
that makes sense. I
Diablo
mean,
4 does season, so they just I think they're doing Diablo 4 season 2. It has not been released yet.
yeah,
So they're fixing a bunch of they're doing a ton of patches and uh, game changes for the next season for season 2.
yeah,
But
man.
all these changes were like, you should have just done all these changes before the game release because these are like game changing
Right.
stuff.
Well, and in their mind, though, to be fair, I think how this kind of started, um, was, I mean, picture N64, right?
Hmm.
You didn't have any sort of communication to any network there. So,
No,
you get a game that releases, that's it. That's the final state of the game. There is no updating it. There is no adding DLC content,
right.
right?
No, there's not. You get
Yeah,
what you get, and you're
pretty
happy.
much. Yeah, and Super Mario World 64 is better for it. So,
It
but
is. It's a great game.
I love that
Like I
game.
was actually talking to Amanda about older games and how all those games are great because you don't get those patches. So you have to make a working game. And if there's
Right.
a glitch that people find, like that's cool. It's
They
that's like
actually do.
something that not everyone's gonna find, but it's something that is like an Easter egg almost. Like when you find a glitch like that in a game.
Well, and I think to add on to
Right.
what you're saying, right? So I've been watching a
Mhm.
lot of people speed run Mario 64 because I I just don't have the time to play it, right?
Yeah.
But when I'm chilling out, like, it is kinda nice to, like, reminisce in it. So, like, these people will be speed running it, and there are certain glitches that they just exploit the hell out of
Oh yeah, there
in
are.
order to get yeah. And it's really cool because it's like, I didn't know you could do it that way. And it
Right.
but, like, they'll be able to beat that game in an hour, and I remember it taking me, like, weeks to beat, playing it at, like, 1.5 hours a day or something like that, sharing a controller with my sister.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that definitely adds to it, but, also if there are glitches so, I've been watching a lot of this, guy on TikTok named Carmichael Jones, right? And he's really funny, like, with what he plays because he only really plays retro games. I don't know why, but his reasoning was, "I remember all these cool games that I wanted to play when I was a kid, but either I couldn't afford or I didn't have time for. Now I have the time for them, and they're almost" I think he said the biggest reason is they're more affordable than certain games that he wants to play right now, and also, I think he added to the fact that, like, there are glitches with games now that, he doesn't really want to like, he kinda wants to wait and see how they perform before buying them, sort of thing.
Mhm.
So he's just been going through a catalog of old, like, NES games and PlayStation games and all that stuff. My favorite thing that he does is he got a bunch of comments suggesting, like, the worst 30 or 24 N64 games of all time, and
Mhm.
he was like he got that after he did an episode about wanting to play Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, which I guess was terrible,
That
and,
sounds terrible.
yeah. But, so then people were like, "No, this game's worse. This game's worse. This game's worse," right? And so
Yeah.
he went through, like, this list of, like, I wanna say it was 24 games that were complete trash. But my point is, going back to what we're talking about with glitches, that he's playing these games, and they were complete trash because they didn't properly produce them, they just
Mm,
released them knowing there was a glitch because that was the day it had to be released, so we're
right.
done here, folks. So, like,
Yep.
Quest 64 is an example, right? It's kinda buggy, right? And it was
Mhm.
supposed to be it was labeled at the time as, like, the Zelda killer, right? And you walk around and you do magic and stuff, and it looks like it shows some real promise, but they just didn't get to fully produce it. So, it's you know. But nowadays, you could release a game like that that's complete trash upon release, and then 3 months later, a year later, have it fixed. Trying to think of that one game, Cyberpunk. Do you remember how many people hated Cyberpunk for, like, the first year? And now, like, people are playing it all the time? And I think they're adding new content to it constantly, going off of that season pass sorta thing like GTA does and apparently Diablo 4 now.
Right. Well, Cyberpunk, they got sued. CD Projekt was negotiating to settle a class action lawsuit over the
Oh, yeah?
botched launch of Cyberpunk because it was
Oh, yeah.
just so riddled with bugs and poor performances on consoles, and
Right.
they they pulled it from the PlayStation Store, and a lot of storefronts were offering refunds for it because it was
Yeah.
just at some
Complete
point,
garbage.
yeah, it was just unplayable for some people. And I guess that's like my main idea of what why do companies, I mean, I know why companies do it because they don't
Companies exist to
the
make money.
yeah, the people, you and me, we don't know that the game's glitched. We see, like, I mean, we might see streamers play something, but streamers might not even get the full game. They'll be like, "Here's early access. Here's,
Right.
like
Here's, like, one level or, "Oh, I'm promised that
here's
they're working on a fix for this right
here's
now."
12 hours of gameplay that we have made perfect so that it will sell 900,000
Yeah.
copies opening weekend, and then we can make our money so we can, you know, fix it later." Which,
Uh-huh.
I mean, I guess is ethical at a business standpoint, but I'm also under the impression that business ethics is just not ethics. It's just lawyer speech for obeying the
Yeah.
law.
Well, let's say that okay, so let's take this to a different product and show some real comparisons, right? So
Right.
let's say that you bought a new car. Let's say you bought a new truck, actually.
Okay.
Knew we could
I
tie
bought
this
a
in
new
somehow.
truck. I
Yeah,
bought
you bought
a, let's not name a real chunky company, Clockwork X2X truck.
Clockwork X2X 2.0. I'll have
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, it was gonna be better than the original X2X, which was a national, like, multi-million dollar, like, great car. Just
Right.
excellent truck.
So I bought this new truck and
Uh-huh.
promise of it being amazing, better than all the other trucks. And I
Right.
buy it and it doesn't start.
Nah, I don't feel like that's right because 'cause I'd be like the loading screen not loading, right?
Right.
So, let's say that it doesn't go in reverse.
Oh, okay.
That's something that everybody can relate to, you know what I'm saying? So you
Yeah.
get it, you pull it off the lot, you're super excited, like, shows some real promise for a vehicle, you drive it all 5 miles home and you park it, and then the next day you can't back up out of your driveway.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you just never you never got into a situation where you had to go in reverse. Like all the new
Right.
trucks were parked in such a way where you just pull forward and you just
Mhm.
drive and you never have to back up, and then you pull into your driveway and then you go to back out and it doesn't back up.
Yeah.
That'd be funny.
So I mean, somebody was selling a used truck like that, and they told me it ran perfectly good and wanted 5 grand for it. I laughed at them.
It
So
doesn't reverse.
yeah, I'm like, that needs a complete transmission rebuild. And they're like, no, it just needs a solenoid replaced. I'm like, I think you mean a servo, but no, it doesn't need a servo replaced. You have to literally take the bands on those snap, and you have to literally take the transmission apart, rebuild the entire thing, put it back together, and then yeah,
Or you can go buy a Clockwork X2X 2.0,
yeah,
which has the same
and
problem. It doesn't go
yeah,
reverse.
yeah.
But you don't know
But
that.
if it's a car maker, they're held liable. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
For
they
that
are.
not going in reverse. There's warranty issues, so
Yeah,
you have the car towed back at the dealer's expense, or whatever, right? Maybe you have a friend help you push it out of your driveway. Hopefully you don't have a mile long driveway. That would suck. But if so, you could probably afford the tow bill at that point. So, um,
it's funny because there's a house I drive by a lot, and it has a insanely long driveway.
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw him bring his trash cans back to his house, and I'm like, LOL.
He just
Have fun
walked
with
them
that
up there.
10-minute walk.
Around my parents' house, everybody has like golf carts or ATVs or like a special hitch that carries their trash cans for them so they can hook it up to their van or whatever and like take their
Right.
trash like a mile away I shouldn't even say a mile. It's probably like 100 yards or something like that. So, but still, who needs a driveway that recessed? I mean, some people share driveways like that, but
I don't I don't know why people do the things they do. I think they just like, oh, I can do this, so I'm going to. Is it the smart thing to do? No. But
yeah, I'd
oh
agree.
well. People aren't logical. They don't think ahead. They just think it's pretty.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and so was the Clockwork X2X 2.0.
Yeah, it probably was
So,
really pretty.
yeah. But so the automakers are held liable for those sorts of things because,
Mhm.
I mean, there are certain things that exist, consumer laws such as the Lemon Law, where like if something goes wrong within 30 days, then you're allowed to just ask for your money back or cancel the
Right.
contract. But you don't get that with video games. I mean, you're talking a much lower price point. Like a brand new Clockwork X2X is $50,000. Your video game is probably 100. So it doesn't really even make sense to hire a lawyer over that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
Even like base games right now are like $70. I'm like, oh
yeah.
man, that's a
Well,
lot.
and
But,
I'm fine with paying $70 for a game
oh yeah, me too.
if
I'm
it's
gonna play
gonna
the
be
hell
good.
out of it.
Oh yeah, yeah, no doubt, yeah. I usually wait till games get down to about like half price or something like that before I'll consider buying them. But that's because I'm waiting for all the bugs to get kicked out, and if they're not, then I know
Yeah.
right away. I don't have a
Right.
whole lot of time to play video games, so it's like I'm currently working on Dying Light 2, which it started out great, but it's kind of a grind here towards the end. So it's just I mean, it's fun. I love zombie killing games, but I was under the impression I was gonna get guns at a certain point, and I'm not gonna get guns, I guess. So it's all just melee based and a lot of parkour, and the parkour is very cool. But it's like at a certain point, it's like, how much do you really wanna just be smashing enemies with, like, giant hammers, you know what I'm saying? And the acting is just fucking terrible, dude. Like, it all feels very forced, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I've just decided to make my character as chaotic as possible, and I assume he's a sociopath, and that's
Mhm.
why he is as forced as he is. Because he's like it's basically like somebody being very sarcastic, and somebody's like, "Oh, my baby died." He's like, "Oh, well, I am very sorry your baby died." You know? And that makes it more bearable for me, and then I smash some zombies. I mostly just wanna get to the end and be done with it. Like, I don't it's a cool game for, like, the first half, but it just gets old real quick.
Yeah.
So
Is it full of glitches?
nah, that one's actually pretty good in that respect. They actually developed a pretty good product there. I don't know how it was at launch, but they developed it. It was well thought out.
Yeah.
So,
I know
um,
that like the newest Pokemon game was full of glitches where you'll fall through the map or your avatar will look grotesque and just like the physics for the characters
yeah,
are it looks like almost like a like Mr. Fantastic or like one of those, like, really stretchy dudes from
Right.
Marvel Comics, but, like, it's kinda like that where it's just not supposed to be like that, and I understand glitches.
Yeah,
I
I
understand you
mean,
can't test for everything when you're doing a video game because
right,
you're
yeah,
only,
but
like, 3 people, and you also have the this confirmation bias, so it's like, "Okay, no, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine," and then you can't test for everything.
yeah, but the issue is that I don't even think they're really even trying to test for everything. I think they basically
Mhm.
put that
No.
responsibility on the developers now, and
Yeah.
the developers are busy developing. They're not busy, testing the product, but they don't have a dedicated tester who's like, okay, well, I know this is an issue with most of our products, so let me test this. And then,
Yeah. I
uh,
think most video games nowadays do not test for the hardcore gamer, the person that's going
yeah.
to min-max and metagame everything. They're testing
Mm,
for, like, the you know, the the dad that comes home from work and that has about 2 hours a night to play a video game, and it'll take them 6 months to get through the game, and in 6 months, they'll probably patch a bunch of stuff.
right. Yeah. And I mean, I don't think that this is just video games that we're talking about either.
No, I don't
So,
either. I
yeah,
This is definitely, something that's
like,
happening across the board with anything that you can buy.
yeah. So I won't mention the company, but there's a company out there that they sell a competitive um, diesel generator. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, a how do I want to put it? Competition to my company's diesel generator, right? And the biggest issue that um, they seem to have is that they'll release these service bulletins that are all theoretical that nobody's ever done before, and then they just expect them to work. But it's like,
Makes sense.
it's the difference between like theoretical versus practical. They're like, oh, it should only take 2 hours to do this, but in reality, it takes like it's just like with Ford when they had Tauruses, the transmissions would go out,
Mhm.
and they were like, oh, okay, well, that's like a 8-hour job is what they'd reimburse you for, right? But it actually took most mechanics like 14 hours to do the whole job, right? And most mechanics at the time, because this was back, I think, in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, most mechanics didn't even want any part of touching those anymore after a while. So some shops would still do it if it was a good customer, but they would try really hard not to do it because, like, it just wouldn't even reimburse for what you were paying the employee. Yet Ford at the time, they had the audacity to say, "Oh, this only takes like 7 or 8 hours," but in reality, knowing that it takes about 14.
Oh,
And yeah, but it's the same thing here where nobody tested it, right? And they release this, and then the same problem still occurs after they do it, and it's not really the fix for it, but nobody really well, I shouldn't say nobody has a fix for it, but
mhm.
it's just an oil leak, but it's one of those things that it's a bastard to get to the tank that holds the makeup oil, and it's a real bad time, and it doesn't even work. So,
Oh,
but yeah, but and as consumers, like we should be we should be able to hold these companies liable for that, you know what I'm
agreed.
saying? And in some instances we can, but in most instances it all just goes back to what you're talking with, which is more about like business ethics, where they basically get to make their own rules to their own game, and you just kind of have to like live within those parameters.
Right. Most companies will just have, like, a department that's like, "How can we handle the backlash of it?" And
Right,
they'll be like, "Yeah, we can do that."
right,
But there will be a point where, like, in Cyberpunk 2077, I mean, them getting sued and then settling, that's probably something that their department did not take into account for. They're probably not like, "This is this" they weren't probably planning on being sued and having a class action lawsuit and then trying to settle. That
right.
I mean, that's something that I'm actually glad that a company actually got sued and are being held
Got held
accountable for
accountable
something.
for it. Yeah,
Right.
and I'd agree. And it's not like CD Project Red hasn't been around forever. I'm pretty sure they're the ones who made all the Witcher games, right?
Yeah, and they do a bunch of other stuff too. Like they did a bunch of translating for some Baldur's Gate stuff
Oh,
too.
okay. Yeah.
Uh, but by the way, Baldur's Gate is amazing. It does have some glitches, but if you're just doing normal gameplay, you're not going to find those glitches.
That's fair.
I haven't run into any glitches. I've run into things where they don't work properly, like
Uh-huh.
like in D&D you have feats. So you have a pole arm master feat with great weapon master.
Uh-huh.
Part of the pole arm feat is you can use a bonus action to use the other side of the halberd to do damage, and it wasn't working with the great weapon
Yeah.
master feat, so it wasn't adding like an additional plus 10 damage to it,
Right.
which
But
I
something
can
like that.
understand. I can understand glitches like that because the game people will not be able to test every single interaction with every single interaction. That's what
Right.
playtesting is for.
Right. Yeah. But that's not really our issue. Um,
No, that
Right.
is not game breaking. Is not going to affect my gameplay. I might, respec and not choose that feat, but also I might
Yeah.
just use it anyway because it's still a good feat.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And that's what I did. I went through a whole
Yeah.
gameplay with a broken feat. So
Broken feet. That's hard to run with.
yeah, I know it was
Yeah.
tough. I had a disadvantage in moving.
Yeah.
Walked everywhere. That's why I got
Oh.
Misty Step.
Oh, okay, good. That way you had some cushion beneath your feet.
Yeah, I just Misty
Yeah.
Step everywhere instead of walking because
That's fair.
walking's too hard.
It's not that big of a deal when, you order a pizza and it's messed up. It's not that big of a deal, but it's annoying and it's certainly inconvenient. And at that point, you might as well have just made something yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But with a
Yeah.
video game, like getting a refund, that's unheard of. Like
Oh
unless you
yeah.
have an unopened copy of it or
True.
something like that. I forget what Valve or what Steam's policy is.
Um, you can return any game for within 2 hours
No, I mean that's not too
for
bad
refund. They do. A lot of people do like speed runs to try and beat the game
in
to
two
get
hours.
that full refund. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say that it's PlayStation. Once you've downloaded the content and you've played it, you're not allowed to get a refund. So, but if you've only just downloaded it, then you can get a refund within 48 hours or something like that.
Hmm.
So, like my daughter once, I had the controller on the couch and she got it while I was using the restroom or something. And she ordered a copy of MLB The Show, which is not something that I would even play. And she paid for the extra DLC pack on top of it, or some sort of pack on top of it. And I was like, "Oh shit, just do not open it." And I'm like, it's like talking like somebody down from the ledge. It's like, put the controller down, baby. Like, let daddy see this. We don't want to pay $80 for a game we'll never play. Let's pay $80 for like Crash Bandicoot or something that, there's Ratchet and Clank. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they even still make Crash Bandicoot games? I haven't checked in a
I
very long time.
I think so.
Or Spyro.
Yeah.
The Spyro
Um,
got real quick.
do they still make the Spyro games? No, they don't. They don't make Spyro,
Oh,
and they don't make Crash Bandicoot either, right? Yeah. I
I thought
thought
they
they
did a
made
remake.
another racing game for Crash Bandicoot,
Oh,
but
that's kind of
at this
lame.
point, why are you even trying to compete with Mario Kart?
Right. Yeah, that's why I said that was kind of lame. It's kind of like Diddy Kong Racing did so well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like Sonic was also doing a racing game too, which I don't understand. Like, why are you having Sonic
Right.
in like that realm in cars?
Yeah.
Like,
He already moves at the speed of light.
yeah,
He's the fastest thing alive.
but you can't do like a running race. That's not exciting. It's not a
Actually,
good
that
game.
might Actually, that might be exciting. I mean, do you remember like the Sega Genesis? Like one-on-one, where, like, it'd be split screen and you'd both be racing through a course sort of thing.
I guess they did make a Crash Bandicoot video game in 2020.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I still prefer Ratchet and Clank to both those, so I don't know why I suggested, Crash Bandicoot
They
or
remade
Spyro.
the trilogy
Ah,
Spyro
Oh.
2018.
Did Spyro become scarier or spookier? It's almost Halloween.
I don't think so. I think
No.
they probably just made him cuter because
Oh.
cute things sell in video games.
So do scary things. Somebody
Yeah.
remade Grandma's. I think it's just called Grandma's. Might be Grandma's House.
It's like a Hansel and Gretel thing.
You're trapped inside. I don't even 100% know. I've only ever seen gameplay of it, but you're trapped inside a house where grandma like will kill you.
And that's another thing that's weird is like video games that were made way back in the day are being remastered to have upgraded graphics.
Yeah. Resident Evil did that, I think.
Final Fantasy VII did that. And I played
Yeah.
that game. And boy, are they trying to milk that franchise. So like
Yeah.
they're releasing it in 3 parts, but each part is releasing within like 2 years after each other,
Huh.
which I didn't which I waited forever to buy the first one because I'm like, it has to be out by now. It's been like years since the first one released. And it was.
Right.
I think the next one's releasing this year. But
Yeah. See, I could never really get into the Final Fantasy games, but I think it's just because I prefer to do the actions as opposed to turn-based combat.
well,
But
luckily for you, they're all switching to you do the actions now.
oh, so I
Yeah,
might
so
like Final Fantasy then.
yeah, you'll like the new Final Fantasies because you can control your character and do everything, and
Right.
it's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the weird thing is I really like RPGs, like, like as far as like, or I guess they're not RPGs at that point, but like Dungeons and Dragons. I really love Dungeons and Dragons and it's turn-based combat, but
Yeah.
that's an entirely different though. You're kind of making your own world or having a world be explained to you where your imagination is really key there.
I mean, that's how Baldur's Gate is. Baldur's Gate is turn-based in combat, which is great, but everything else in the world is real time. So you can turn on time-based, and then each of your characters will, take turns doing those actions, or you can just turn on real time, and shenanigans ensue. So, for example, if you're on a trap and in D&D you can do turn based, so like a trap will go off and then you'll take turns before damage goes through. If you're in real time,
Right. Yeah. Dexterity saving throw
if
or
you're in
whatever.
real time and you're in a trap, you're just constantly being damaged trying to heal your character. And you're like, no, 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 just heal, just heal. And you're trying to move at the same time, but you're trying to
Mhm.
like go to that character, get them to move out of the trap, and then just end up dying.
Yeah.
It's
I
funny.
cast Awaken a Zombie. Now I get 2 turns.
I don't know what happened with video games though, where it just became okay to just release games that were barely finished or just finished enough where people won't notice. But I think as streaming and YouTube is becoming so popular in the past like 5-10 years, maybe not 10, probably 5, 7.
Yeah.
That it's just becoming more and more noticeable when something is bad in a video game. And I'm not sure
Well,
if we're ever going to get to the point where it's better to take 4 years to release a game than push it through so it can get to like the Christmas launch to compete with some other video games.
right. Yeah. Well,
I mean, if the
I mean,
game's good, people will buy it. I mean, I haven't bought the new Zelda game. I just haven't gotten around to it. I haven't bought the new Final Fantasy like 16. I mean, that came
mhm.
out I think last month. I haven't played that yet. I haven't picked up Starfield. There's like all these games that are supposedly
Yeah.
like on their own would be like game of the year.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3, it's a game that could be game of the year. Starfield could be a game of the year as long as Bethesda didn't fuck it up. But it's Bethesda, so it's probably actually it is full of glitches. I was reading about some people
Yeah.
that are like, yeah, sometimes my character just falls through the world, or sometimes random NPCs just fall from the sky, and I'm like,
Yeah.
all right. Maybe
Yeah.
NPCs shouldn't fall through the sky, and maybe you shouldn't have interactions where you just fall through the map.
Yeah. I'd agree. I don't know. I've heard both ways though that Starfield's both really good and really terrible simultaneously.
Yeah,
So
there's also that kind of like mentality of where are you reading and where are you looking to? Because we all know that like when something is negative, it's gonna get more views than something that's positive. I
sure.
mean,
Yeah.
if something has a good headline, you're like, oh sweet, a bus full of puppies was saved. Great. I don't need to read the
Yeah.
rest of this. I don't need to know why
Yeah.
those puppies were on the bus or why
Yeah.
they needed
I
saved.
mean,
I'm
the
just
worst
glad that
part
they're
is they were
saved.
all going to get euthanized. So like they were only saved temporarily. You would know that if you didn't just read the headline.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But like
hmm
if it was a bus full of puppies caught on fire and exploded, I'd probably read that article.
Yeah. Yeah. I gotcha. I see your point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, I don't know. I mean, I usually find that on Reddit is about the best place to get accurate information because who's on Reddit trying to like do positive PR? Though recently, like that's actually been a thing. Maybe that has something to do with like a superiority complex to some degree where we feel the need to be better than other people, but
I,
realistically, like,
maybe it's just that people just don't get that confirmation biasm or confirmation or affirmative.
affirmate. Whoa.
They don't get like compliments.
Well, I mean, a lot of it is confirmation bias, like you were trying to get at.
Yeah.
So, um, but
Maybe people just want to be happy and they don't have
no,
friends and they just need to be right. And then they get a compliment.
I mean, sometimes, but I think it's probably dangerous to simplify the intentions of most people down to a couple sentences.
That is also true.
Yeah. Because Hitler was a nice guy for most of his life.
that is that is true.
War hero, I mean, start getting into World War or start going after World War One, and it's not so great. But maybe he was just a nice guy who liked puppies. I know he liked German shepherds,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
but maybe we're I don't know. I think we're at this point within corporate America where they don't really care about the result anymore or what people think of the product 'cause the product still sells.
It's true.
So, so I guess what I'm asking is how do you fix it? Like in my instance, you just don't buy a video game until you know it's good,
Yeah.
you know, and then buy that video game. But I can also like the new Zelda game. I've been wanting to play that for months now, but I haven't bought it. So
Mhm.
I've been working through other stuff that I've been trying to play for much longer. I really can't get behind Far Cry 6 though. I keep trying to, and then I just keep hating it. I don't know what it is. I love every other Far Cry game. That one just pisses me off, and I don't understand why.
I don't know how to make games better now though. I guess I don't know. I mean, I was reading some things that it's like Baldur's Gate 3 will change the world because they actually released a game that was like fully fledged out and it had no glitches and it was just different than all the other big name titles that were coming out recently where there's just glitches galore and it doesn't feel like that
Right.
they play tested it or anything like that. I mean, Diablo 4 is hurting right now because everyone quit. Not
Yeah.
everyone, but a lot of people were quitting and they're like, oh shit, well, We need people to play.
Right, you won't buy the next season.
Yeah, games nowadays have this idea of like, well, we need people to do microtransactions in the game because that's what's actually
Yeah.
making money. I mean, yeah, a million people bought the product and that pays for our basically our cost to create the game, but we need to make like profit every year, every month. So that's why we have seasons and battle passes and
Well, and I get adding a DLC every once in a while, don't get me wrong, but
right.
the idea of seasons just kinda drives me nuts. Because when I beat a game, I just wanna be done with it. I wanna
Exactly.
move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate's on my list of things, but, like, in the interim, it's not the next thing on my list.
I mean, I wouldn't I wouldn't recommend Baldur's Gate to people unless they like D&D. If they like D&D, play
Yeah.
try Baldur's Gate.
Yeah,
Like Rhea doesn't really like Baldur's Gate. She just likes
well,
pounding on my keyboard.
she's about a year old, so I think, give her a little bit of time and maybe that'll change.
Yeah.
So, my dog doesn't like Baldur's Gate. I don't know definitively that she doesn't like Baldur's Gate because she's a dog, but I have a sneaking suspicion. So,
I don't
my dog
think
much prefers Snuggles.
yeah. I don't think my dogs like any game. I think Rhea likes games that are bright and shiny, so she might like first person shooters because there's lots of action, lots of movement going on. But man, Baldur's Gate, not one of those games where you can just kind of sit and chill.
Yeah. I think Teletubby finds a ball might be more her pace.
She might like, I don't know, Octonaut, the video game.
Is there an Octonauts video game?
I don't know, probably not.
Oh man, now I gotta Google this because that's a great idea for a video game.
Yeah. I just think companies need to be more accountable though, and just like not half-ass it and just take advantage of their their audience because they know that. I mean, I guess
Ooh.
that's the thing. People they know that the audience is going to just buy it, and they know that
Yeah.
if they have a good um, pre-release of the game, that they're gonna streamers will play it, and their audience that are watching the streamers are gonna play the game. They just know that. And
So
that's the
do
thing that's the ethical thing about it, though, is they now have the responsibility to do the right thing, which they're not gonna do because doing the right thing doesn't always make the most money.
Mhm.
Well, but in long term, it will make more money. If they make a good
Oh,
game that they can, like, put good DLCs out and have, like, a good base, they'll make more money than just, like, the quick crash, get quick rich of just making a game, putting it out, collecting their, 900 million copies in opening weekend.
man. So do Android games, for your phone, do those count as video games?
Yeah. I think mobile games do count as video games.
Okay,
And
so in that case, Octonauts have at least 2 video games then.
I thought you were gonna get into, like, the pay to win aspect of video games, and I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh,
no, that
man,"
was coming next though, so you weren't
because
too far off,
I know
so
Is it Microsoft? I think Microsoft owns Candy Crush, and
no.
Candy Crush is, like, their most profitable video game because it's literally just
Yeah,
microtransactions.
well, that's fair. But I feel like now is a good time to talk to our listeners, or at least you, one listener in Virginia. We haven't really done a lot to expand our fan base, but right now is a great time to try HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, I get delicious meals of my choosing delivered for a low, convenient cost. And they're always easy to make and frankly, just phenomenal. Use code, well, I'm just talking to you, guy in Virginia. Just try code Crime After Crime 20. It works. It's not ours, but you'll save 20% on your first order.
I
Really
I'm
trying to
literally I'm literally making a HelloFresh meal right now in a slow
oh,
cooker. I'm
oh,
making
are you?
yeah, I did, we got a, like, family meal, so they have family meals that are basically 4 portions, and, we chose one that was a slow cooker, and they gave us everything. I mean, they gave us the chicken, the spices, the chicken stock, and they're just like, "Hey, follow these instructions, put it in a crock pot. 4 hours later, you'll have a meal." And I'm like, "Oh man, this is great." So yeah, I prepped it earlier, put it in the crock pot, and it'll be done in about 2 hours.
Oh, man. See that, listener? Like, we're not even endorsed by HelloFresh. We just think the products are
Yesterday, I made this Italian ground Italian sausage meat sauce rigatoni with zucchini.
no, that
I've had it
sounds
twice
pretty good.
now. It is actually really good.
Yeah. And how's cleanup afterwards? Isn't cleanup always the easiest?
No,
Oh,
yeah, I have
shit.
this
I
like
was going for a selling point.
yeah, I have this giant like 12-inch saute pan that's like 20 pounds. I don't know if
Yeah.
it weighs 20 pounds, but it's stainless
It's,
steel and
oh,
I mean it's not
it's
bad
probably
cleaning
about
out,
10.
but you just gotta
Mm,
let it soak
yeah.
for a minute or two.
So, I actually thought a lot about our one listener in Virginia, right? And I kept saying it was a bot. It was a bot. And I don't know if I told you my final thoughts on that.
It's just like one of your friends.
No, I mean I have a friend in Virginia, but he doesn't know the name of our podcast or anything like that. So it's definitely not him listening to it. But um actually I had two friends in Virginia, but neither one of them doesn't even have a clue that we're doing a podcast. So but no, so like Virginia, Washington DC resides between Virginia and Maryland. And I half wonder if it wasn't like some sort of bot for the government downloading it and then fishing through it because we have a podcast called Ethica America and how to
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
maybe.
you see what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
that seems like the sort of thing that bot would scour for specifically for like the NSA or something like that.
Makes
And
sense.
just yeah, and we're not talking about like starting a revolution or anything. I mean, well, we're not talking about like any sort of like cultist. We're way better than Donald Trump here. We're not
Yeah.
talking any insurrection or like any sort of revolt or anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
We're
Like we're
just
just
complaining about the state of
yeah,
everything and how everything's just slightly bad.
getting worse. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
It's
not
moving towards some sort of dystopian society that none of us, I think, were trained to deal with or cope with
I
as
just want a
adults. Like,
video game that's good at release, where I don't have to worry
right,
about, a patch that has to come out before it's playable. That's all I
right,
want,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And I don't want to have to play a game where I'm getting hounded every 5 minutes about microtransactions, even if the game was free to begin with. Like, I I just feel like advertising to me about every little thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, the advertisements are fine, but making a game so that way it's literally unbeatable but addictive, and
Mhm.
then adding microtransactions to it, like take Candy Crush for example, right?
Right.
Huge game as far as profits go. It's a free game to download, right?
Mhm.
And how many people wasted their time with it and then like paid that $1 to just skip that one really hard level and then you get four levels that you beat and you're like, "Oh, I'm really good at this." And then that one level that you're not.
Right.
It was designed to be that way where it's this instant gratification
Mhm.
and then it takes advantage of its consumers to make up all that revenue. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's
Yeah,
not
I mean, I get it. I mean, I've played like, Blizzard's doing this new thing where almost everything has in-game transactions, like, Overwatch had loot boxes to get cosmetics for your characters, Diablo 4 has cosmetics to make things look better, your character look better, like different skins, things like that, and I get it,
well well,
but,
and I mean, those
like
aren't really, like, game
no,
changing,
they're
though,
not.
so you want your character to look a
Di
certain way, that's
Diablo
that's whatever.
Immortal Diablo Immortal, however, it had microtransactions to make your character more powerful.
And that's kinda where I draw the line at right there. I actually do like Genshin Impact. I never paid for anything, but
I did. I bought loot boxes to get new characters because new characters are cool, and I wanted the new characters.
well, and, like, a new character, I mean, that's still a little bit different because 'cause you're paying for, like
I don't mind spending money on DLCs or
when you were talking about new characters, did those new characters unlock new story and stuff like that?
no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Not that I recall. It's been a minute since I played Genshin Impact, but like I'm pretty sure if I bought a new character, all the character development is already in the game. So it's not something. It's just like, oh, here's that character that's in the game that you've interacted with. By spending $100, you have a 25% chance of getting one.
yeah. I guess I guess my bigger problem is that like when it becomes necessary to buy something to beat the game or to
Right.
level up or something like that. Because as a consumer, you should never be forced into this product that like, hey, so we're giving you 75% of it at this price. We're not going to tell you, but towards the end, you'll have to pay that extra 25% at least
Right.
to to beat it. So
Yeah.
and in Genshin Impact, if I remember right, there was a lot of those quests where it's like, run around and grab 100 of these, and, like, somebody was
Right.
always selling them for, like, 50 coins, so that way you didn't have to do it.
Yeah. Genshin Impact was one of those things where it's like you have X amount of things that you can do, but you can spend money to get more time to do those things. So you had a resource. Then every time you I did something to get to use that resource, you you basically have to wait for the next day to have that resource replenish. But you can spend money to get that resource replenished, so you can do more and more and more things
Yeah,
throughout the game. And that
yeah,
and if the game has like a PvP aspect to it, then the more money you're spending, the more of advantage you have. But then it
right,
gets to a point where you'll never be like top 10 because top 10 will be like the whales that are spending the most money.
right,
You'll be in a tier that's below that. So now you're just fighting a bunch of people that are in your tier. It's basically like um, income in real life.
yeah,
And that's the tier system that you have. So you're just in tier with the people that are your same financial
right.
like
Yeah, your same place in life,
yeah, your same
basically.
place in life, basically. Yeah.
Your same situation,
Like
fiduciarily, at
if
least.
you're a millionaire and top 1%, you're gonna fight top 1% people in from
Right,
income
because what's
ratios.
$100 to you, rich boy? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
But if you're like
God,
mid 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 income, mid to high income, you're gonna be in
yeah,
those mid to high income bracket of
yeah,
people. It's kind of weird how like that system is not about how good you are. It's about how much money you have in real life, and that's how good you are at the
but
game.
that's exactly how real life is. So let
It
me give you an
is.
example, okay? So I was at a hotel bar, right? And I like going down there just to people watch because, like, sometimes you get these people who are like in worse situations than me, but in this instance, nobody was in a worse situation than me. But somebody wanted to pretend that they were, and he tried to befriend me.
Yeah.
And I know the dude was trying to hit on me because, like, dude, like, you are awfully meticulously groomed. You're like 45 years old. You're wearing polka dot socks and a business, like, casual sort of. Well, no, he was wearing khakis and like a dress shirt, right? You wear polka dot socks with the shiniest fucking shoes I've ever seen. And then, like, I sit down at the bar and you're like, oh, you're awful tall, aren't you? And it's like, okay, well, you're not an old man asking me about basketball, so I know what this is. He was nice, but then, like, I'm telling him, like, I'm like, I just really want to be home with my kid because, like, she's not having the greatest time right now. But I'm stuck out here basically just playing the job of a glorified diesel mechanic trying to fix something that I was told would only take a couple of hours, but it's been 4 fucking days.
Yeah, they got you
And then
good.
he's like, "Oh," well, and yeah, they got me real good. But anyhow, um, so anyhow, um, he's talking. He's like, "Well, at least you're not me. I have an Olympic gymnast at home, or somebody who's training to be an Olympic gymnast." And he's like, "And I have another son who's more like me, but then I also have a son who's autistic." And it's like, "Oh, woe is you, motherfucker! Like, there's nothing wrong with having an autistic kid, right? Like,
Mhm.
she not really the problem. She's easy. Like, you're over here and you're just like, I'm just saying, like, I wanna be home. Like, I want to be around her because she's having a bad time, and you're over here like, "Oh, I have to raise this autistic kid, this gymnast, and this other kid." And it's like, I don't see you around them. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck's your problem? Like, so I'm talking to him a little bit more. He's like, "My one son, he wants to buy this. It's a $2,500 dirt bike." And I told him, "Okay, but you gotta come up with the money for it." So now he's getting resourceful and he's selling our old stuff to do it. Do you see what I'm doing there? That's good parenting. And I'm like, really think that's good parenting? That's like sociopathic. Like, you want it, you got to figure it out. I understand that part, but you're telling him like, you got to like, you can do whatever you need to do. You sell it, you get it cheap enough. He's like, but I know that's only worth 1,600. And he's like, but he's determined and he's gonna get it, and that's how you raise a real winner. And it's like, the fuck did I just walk into, polka dot sock guy? This is Dexter level shit.
Yeah.
I was
I'm not sure
so
if,
well, he was there with 3 other guys, so then I got the other 3 guys to make fun of him for me, and he left very quickly. Because like, he said something, I'm like, "Did you just hear does he always say things like that?" And they're like, "Yeah, he does." I'm like, "And what's up with those fucking socks he's wearing?" And they all started laughing, and he got embarrassed, and he left.
poor
So,
guy.
like, Mr. Sociopath guy, I got him real good. So,
Well,
but
hopefully his son sells his watch and then buys a dirt bike.
I don't even know. He was basically teaching him to be a cutthroat, and I didn't really care for it. And I didn't really care for being told that his life is so much harder. We've all got our trials in life, right?
Yeah.
In a video game, buying one for the wrong price or being sucked into add-ons, I mean, that's not really a big challenge. It's more of an annoyance more than anything else.
Right.
But also, there is some things that, like that are inherently wrong with buying a buying a product that is not as described.
Yeah. I think, and that is a big problem too, because I can understand being manipulated or not manipulated in some senses, but like I can understand how some people will play Candy Crush and be like, "Oh man, how did I spend $200 on Candy Crush?" Because those games are meant to like
Be
make you
addictive to
feel like
some
it's
degree.
okay to spend $1 here and there, and then eventually it adds up. And that's the game taking advantage of you on purpose
Right,
through
right.
uh just like instant gratification, like you said, and
Mhm.
also because people are really good at making ads. People are really good at like making people buy stuff when they don't really realize it. Like
Well, as an
there's
example.
a science around it, like product placement and
Oh,
things like
yeah,
that.
no, and if we ever get back to talking about Edward Bernays, I'd tell you more about it, but in this instance, it's like, and I guess I never really bought anything on Candy Crush. Plenty of people who have, but if you offer somebody coins, right, to continue playing, we'll just say, right, and you offer them coins, and those coins are, oh, how do I want to put it? We'll just say like right now they're $2, but it means 10 turns, right?
Right.
And then you click out of it, and then you get a pop up like 5 seconds later that says limited time deal, and it shows a timer with like 60 seconds counting down right now, right? And it's like for a limited time, we'll double that, but we'll do it for $1 instead of two.
Right.
It's that sort of time constraint pressure where you don't really have the time to really rationally think about it
Yeah.
because you've already denied it once. They're like, okay, so we'll offer you this better price point so you feel like you're getting a deal, but we're only going to do it like right now.
And the deal is it's digital. So it's not like the company's going to lose money or make any more money. They're selling something digital.
Right. Yeah.
It's so it
Well, I mean, in that instance, you're buying it with digital currency too,
yeah.
whether you're using a US dollar or whatever. So are we really buying a real product generally?
Yeah. I love playing. games where it's like, "Oh, if you buy this right now, you're getting a 500% deal." Like, it's 500% off or normal this is
Well, if
a
I'm buying it right now, I'm still losing $20.
yeah.
So,
But if
you
you
know what
didn't
I'm
buy it
saying?
right now, you'd be losing $40 for the same thing. Or you
I'm
can
pretty sure
just
if I emailed you and said I saw an ad for 20 and the site wasn't working right, I would still get it for 20.
yeah.
Yeah. I am not as naive as most people are. And honestly, maybe that's what we should do, right? Because they're making counter offers against themselves. So maybe if we start emailing the company, they're like $1 for double the amount. I'll be like 50% or 50 cents for like 500 times the amount
Mhm.
and see what they do.
I
Pressure
mean,
them back,
I
right?
I
This
have
is a
played a
one-time deal.
I've played a lot of gotcha games, and that's what
Yeah,
kind of like these games are, like Genshin Impact or those mobile games like Raid Shadow
right.
Legends. They're gotcha games. They're just
Yeah,
like, here, buy this thing for $1, and that's when they go gotcha, and
yeah,
that's because it's so easy to like once you spend $1, it's so easy to buy more. I mean, I spent well,
right.
I've spent a bunch of money in Pokemon Go too, just for yeah. I mean, I don't really think of Pokemon Go as a gotcha game,
I
but
mean,
it
it kind
definitely
of
can
is.
be.
Yeah. I
Mm,
mean, especially like if you, I mean, weren't people selling like certain characters online too there for a little bit?
I mean, people were selling accounts, but then they kind of there's
Squelched that.
always ways to get get around like
Yeah, I remember spamming locations was a big thing at the beginning, and then they stopped that real quick.
yeah, there's always like things that come out to make the game easier to play or people selling
Mhm,
accounts and things like that. And they do have thing practices in place to prevent those things, but you can't
mhm.
prevent everyone from doing it. And then they'll do like
Yeah,
shadow bans or bans, but things like that. But
yeah.
I mean, people will teleport to different areas in the world within the game to catch
Mhm.
a Pokemon. I think gotcha games are a menace in society, but it also just makes people happy. So if people want to spend $10,000 a month on a gotcha game, more power to them. Hopefully, it doesn't hurt them in real life.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the people that I knew who got sucked up into it were people in Section 8 housing sort of situations, like a single mom with 3 kids sort of thing. So
Yeah,
and they obviously had a bad time with impulse decisions generally, which is how
yeah.
they got into their situations.
I mean,
So it's like,
if you gotta turn a trick to beat a Candy Crush level, more power to them.
well, I mean, and to some degree, like if somebody tried to tell me not to smoke, like, that's my right as I don't know, as an American. But um but if somebody told me not to smoke, it's like and told me that, "Oh, well, I'm just addicted to it, and that's why I wanna keep smoking." I've quit a bunch of times. I
Yeah,
really like smoking, but that's my decision. And could I quit if financially I couldn't handle it? Yeah, and maybe that means I'm not an addict, but I'm definitely an addict. So, like, but my point is that that's my decision to make, and maybe this is the consumer's decision to make as well.
right.
And maybe as Americans, we just need to emphasize that
I I think there's
or
2
globally.
types. Yeah, I think there's 2 different types of people that are playing gotcha games. One, there are people that are being almost preyed upon, but they kinda know how much money they're spending. And
Mhm.
then there there's I guess there's 3 people because I just thought of another person. And then there's the other person that is knowingly spending, $10,000 because they want to progress through the game and be the best. And then there's the third option where it's their kid that stole their parents' phone, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get this thing and
Oh,
this thing and this
yeah.
thing," and then they
That's
spend
the one you
200
forgot,
more.
isn't it? Yeah.
That's the other gotcha where it's like, "Haha, parent, gotcha. Have fun getting this turned
We
back."
got your kid who got you. Return on investment
Yeah,
complete. Yeah.
and that's,
And they're also making money off of you through ads too, so it's like,
right.
I don't
Yeah,
I
and,
mean,
like
TikTok got me good today. My daughter got my phone, and we were watching dinosaur videos,
Mhm.
and then a sponsored ad came up where it was dinosaur plushies, and she's like, "Oh, baby dinosaur, daddy, baby dinosaur," and I'm like, it was like 14 bucks. I'm like, "Do you want the blue one or the purple one?" And she's like, "The purple, daddy, purple." So I got her the purple one and I got my son the blue one. And they'll be here. I can order them through Amazon too, which was super convenient. So they'll be here Monday and Tuesday.
Wow.
But they got me real
Hey,
good with
they did.
that. So yeah, and that's not even a gotcha game. That's
No.
just like me. Yeah, that was just me like trying to appease my daughter who wanted to watch dinosaur things because we spent $130 for tickets to go see Jurassic Quest in 2 weeks.
Yeah, ads are a thing that definitely, there's a good science to them, and it will make people do
Yeah,
things that they do not want to do, and it usually pertains
yeah.
to kids.
But anyhow, that's our podcast for this week.
Yeah.
I'm Ryan of the Octonauts and the Whale Shark game, available on Apple Play and Google Play. Oh wait, it's just called the App Store with Apple, isn't it? I'm not really on there anyways, so it doesn't really matter.
Where are we, though? We are on Google Chrome and Spotify and patreon.com/Ethica America.
Oh yeah,
And
we kind of have a website, but I haven't
YouTube. Yeah.
had any time to develop it.
Well, maybe one day we'll have an Instagram.
Oh, fingers crossed. Yeah, after the website's developed. The worst part is it's just a matter of plugging in the theme and changing some photos around for now. It's really easy. I just haven't had the time to do it because I forgot all my login credentials and I have to figure those out before I can do
Yeah.
it.
And Instagram's easy. You just got to make an account and post stuff.
Yeah, but we'd have to have something worthy of posting.
And then I could clip 30-second rants.
Yeah, I have ideas.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. It's just a matter of like, I want to get the website built first.
Makes
So,
sense.
one problem at a time.
Did we cover everything with video games? I feel like we're missing a lot.
We probably are, but that's why we're going to have you tune in next week for part two, like always.
Part 2 as we rant about video games again.
I mean, if there's more to talk about, we can establish that later and we'll talk about it more. Otherwise, we'll move on to another topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh,
All right.
well,
Goodbye.
yeah, I'll talk to you later. See you later, guy in Virginia.